So thank you everyone for being here today. So good afternoon everyone, I'm Jaslyn Bay, co-founder of Blackstone Consulting. So on behalf of Blackstone Consulting and Privacy Ninja, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you. We appreciate you taking time off your busy schedule to join us today. So this is the agenda of today's session, whereby I will go through very quickly about, an introduction of Blackstone Consulting for those who are new to us. Then I'll pass on the time to Privacy Ninja team, in which they will talk about data protection officer requirement, what do you need to know, and we will have a short discussion on the common breaches and prevention tips that they will share. Okay. So before I begin, I will share some housekeeping rule today. So firstly, please turn off your audio and video throughout. I know some of you may be very excited to ask questions, so you can always post your question at the chat box throughout the discussion. Okay, so you can actually ask with your audio and video on later during the open discussion. We will have a section for that. And please note that this session is actually broadcasted live in multiple places on Facebook. So if you actually Blackstone Consulting Facebook page. So if you have any friends who are interested in this and you think that they will benefit from it, please share to them. Okay, so today we are very excited to have a guest. Mr. Andy Prakash, as well as Mr. Dexter Ng, the founder and as well as the CTO of Privacy Ninja, to share their expertise with us. Okay, so for those who are new to Blackstone Consulting, let me talk a little bit about Blackstone Consulting first. So we are a business consultancy firm headquartered in Singapore with offices in Bangkok, Taiwan, and upcoming in Malaysia. So to put it short, we are actually scale businesses in Southeast Asia, helping companies to land in Singapore and other parts of Southeast Asia. So we are also a proud founding members of Multinational Business Alliance with two other founding members, a marketing and sales consultancy firm in Taiwan and HR consultancy in Singapore as well as Taiwan. So these are the companies that we work with, which coming from multiple places from the world. We have Russia, US, Taiwan, China as such, and companies as large as Lenovo and also some government agency as well as startups. Okay, so I believe many of you, or even Blackstone Consulting ourselves, we actually received a recent reminder email from the PDPC, which is Personal Data Protection Commission, regarding the appointment of data protection officer. So in fact, as a consultancy firm, we actually received quite a number of requests and queries regarding this email. So which is why we decided to hold a session like this to address the query and to answer what exactly is this email about. So now let me pass on the time over to Andy, whereby Andy will talk about the data protection officer and they will introduce themselves more. Okay, Andy, please, I will stop share now.
All right, thank you so much, Jaslyn. I'll take over the screen sharing. Can everyone see my screen? Okay, so very good afternoon, everyone. Okay, my name is Andy, and I'm from Privacy Ninja. Thank you, Blackstone Consulting, for co-hosting this with us. And this is a very important session whereby we like to share what is this data protection officer requirement in Singapore. Okay, and what businesses need to know with regards to the PDPA, the Personal Data Protection Act, okay, the DPO requirements, okay, and also how they can fulfill their obligations under the PDPA. Okay, without further ado, okay, we will start on the session proper. These are just a few media mentions that we have been on, okay, with regards to cybersecurity and data protection. So Channel News Asia, Channel 8, right, on the deep web, dark web. We have done live hacking demonstrations at Echelon and even invited to speak at Interpol World last year. Okay, this will be a gist of the topics that I'll be covering today, okay, in the next about 15-20 minutes. So first, we'll touch on what is mandatory by law under the PDPA. What is this ACRA BIZFILE email that businesses may have already received? If not, they may receive it, okay, in the coming months. Okay, what is a DPO's responsibilities? What are the penalties that businesses are facing, okay, if they suffer a data breach, or if they get found out that they do not have a DPO. Okay, and also just to share, why is outsourcing your DPO's obligations, okay, to an external DPO something that businesses can consider? And last but not least, cost savings involved. Okay, so firstly, what's mandatory by law is that all organizations in Singapore must appoint a DPO. Okay, the data protection officer is quite a mouthful, so I'll just give it a short form, DPO. As you can see from this poster over here, okay, created by the PDPC, the Personal Data Protection Commission, which is Singapore's data protection regulator. You can see here that appointing a DPO is mandatory. So all businesses, big or small, okay, you need a DPO. So then, how can a business comply to the Personal Data Protection Act? Okay, just to share that this act, the PDPA, is not something new. Okay, it has been around since 2012. Okay, you may or may not have heard about the term PDPA, but more or less, most people would know about the Sing Health incident, right? The data breach, whereby even our Prime Minister's medical records were accessed multiple times, and Sing Health and their IT vendor, IHIS, got fined the maximum amount of $1 million, right? Collectively, which is the maximum fine. So how can a business comply to the PDPA? Okay, basically, they need to develop and implement the necessary policies and practices, okay, to put this in place, okay, to meet their obligations under the PDPA. And at the very start, okay, every business needs to appoint, okay, or designate to appoint at least one individual known as the DPO. So second step will be to make sure that this DPO's business contact information, okay, short form his BCI, okay, to be publicly available so that the public, okay, customers, and even PDPC can easily gain access to this contact information and contact the DPO, okay, with regards to any data protection matters. Okay, so what is this ACRA BIZFILE email, okay, that we've been talking about? Okay, so the PDPC has collaborated with ACRA. So ACRA is Singapore's business, all the entities registry. So you can see in this email screenshot itself that it's addressed, okay, directly to a business. You can see here that they state, under the PDPA, organizations are required to develop and implement policies and practices to meet their data protection obligations. They need to appoint at least one individual as the DPO. They need to make available the DPO's BCI, which is all mandatory under the law. So this was what I previously also mentioned. And they also aim to inform that the PDPC has collaborated with ACRA to develop this new e-service that will enable business entities in Singapore, okay, to easily register and update their DPO's BCI. Okay, so remember earlier I mentioned that every business has to make publicly available your DPO's contact information. So some businesses may not have a corporate website. It's very hard for them to fulfill this requirement to make their DPO's BCI publicly available. So then PDPC collaborated with ACRA to now make it, okay, very, very easy. You can just go to ACRA, okay, so bizfile.gov.sg. You don't even have to log in with SingPass or CorpPass. Okay, you just put in any company's name, click search, and then there'll be a new function there, okay, called Data Protection Officer. Okay, slightly covered by the gray overlay, but it's here. You click on the word here, and then the DPO's information of that organization will appear. Okay, what if you search for a company and that DPO's information is not available, right? Not lodged into ACRA, did not update the ACRA BIZFILE. So then how can you confirm if they have a DPO? Okay, go to their corporate website, search for their privacy policy, and see if their DPO's BCI is stated there. Okay, so let's talk about a DPO's responsibilities. Most business owners, first thing that comes to mind is that they will ask themselves, is this something that I can appoint or delegate to one of my existing employees to take on this role as a DPO for my whole organization to fulfill their PDPA compliance? Okay, so let me share, okay, what is the DPO's responsibilities primarily and more. Okay, so this responsibilities stated here are taken from PDPC's website. Okay, so firstly, a DPO has to ensure that the organization has in place, okay, the necessary policies and processes on how they handle, okay, manage and process personal data under their care. Okay. Second, okay, a DPO has to ensure two things. One, that the employees in the organization are aware of their PDPA obligations, and two, that employees are aware, okay, on the implemented policies in the organizations. Okay, so you can send your employees for training, get a budget, send them for external training, or the DPO can perform in-house training in periodic intervals to their employees. Okay, processes. So of course, every business has its business processes. That's how you're able to run a business. Okay, but with regards to the PDPA, okay, there are three processes, okay, minimally three, that must be formalized under the PDPA. So firstly, you have your data access request, which means any customer, okay, can come up to you as a business and ask you, like ABC company, I would like to have access to my personal data, okay, that you have about me. How have you used it? And who have you disclosed it to in the past 1 year? So under your organization obligations, you have to give access to the customer or the subject. Okay, you cannot deny him access, but there are certain things you have to know, like you are able to even charge a processing fee, like to be able to address his query. Okay, secondly, we have our consent withdrawal. So you must allow your customers, the consumers, to be able to withdraw their consent for you to stop processing their personal data, right? Certain things you have to know again is that you must be transparent and make sure that the data subject is clear on the consequences if, okay, they were to withdraw their consent. We also have the complaints. So you must formalize the complaints process and SOP to allow your customers to properly complain to your organization with regards to how, okay, maybe they feel unsafe about how you're governing their personal data. Okay, so let's move on to risk assessment. So a DPO must be knowledgeable, okay, must be proficient to be able to perform, okay, risk assessment for the organization. So this can be as simple as identifying that the endpoints, the workstations in the company, okay, do not have antivirus or anti-malware software. So as we all know now, all data, okay, most of the companies are storing data in the cloud or online. So then this would be a prevention. So a DPO can suggest to management, okay, to get a budget to install this data protection software, antivirus, anti-malware software onto the employees' workstations. This can be monitoring the environment, the physical work area, to see if there's third parties walking in and out, having easy access to the environment. Okay, is there a possible chance that sensitive documents stored on the premises may be accessed by these third parties? So then is there CCTV? Are there access restrictions? Or all these documents are under lock and key? So it's a whole range of what's possible based on the work environment, both on-site and also for the cyber portion. Another thing is also, let's say for the cyber portion, a DPO can recommend to management to perform regular penetration testing on their website or on their applications if they have any. Okay, point of contact. So I always say that a DPO is an organization's frontline, most important line of defense. And why do I say that? Okay, it's because any public complaints, queries, PDPC questions, okay, the first point of contact will be the DPO. And then the DPO can delegate to the necessary internal departments, okay, to address these data protection matters. So if you have a very good DPO in place, he will be able to provide satisfactory answers and ease, okay, any worries, okay, from any questions or complaints from any customers. Okay, so with regards to data protection, okay, who do people look to? They will look for the data protection officer, the DPO in an organization. Okay, so I've spoken so much. So from these few items alone, in each item itself, we can see that there's a lot of matters, okay, to be complied with, to be done. So that's why a DPO's role, okay, it's not something easily that businesses can just appoint an employee to go and settle the whole organization's PDPA compliance. You need a team, you need an experienced personnel to be able to take this on. So let's look at the penalties, right? Okay, we are all familiar with this case. I also previously mentioned SingHealth and IHIS. So in last year, January, okay, $250,000 was imposed on SingHealth, and the bulk of it, $750,000 was imposed on their IT vendor. Okay, we have a few more other popular cases. Okay, Ninja Logistics. Okay, financial penalty of $90,000 were issued to them. Okay, why? Because of the tracking function on their website. Okay, users could manipulate the input, the data, and be able to gain access to more data than they are supposed to. So then there was a complaint, and then they were issued a penalty. Okay, we have Singtel. So because of the My Singtel mobile application, they were fined $9,000. Okay, we have Grab Car. So there was another more recent incident as well for Grab. In total, there's about 4 incidents so far. And they were issued a financial penalty just for this case alone, $16,000. Okay, and let's take a look at F&B as well. So even Spice, which is a popular F&B establishment in Singapore, okay, they were issued a hefty penalty of $20,000. So of course, these are because of data breaches, right? But let's take a look at what about just not having a DPO. So these are some examples, and you can see typically, okay, I would say the market pricing, okay, businesses are forking out $5,000 to $20,000. And where do I get all this information and data from? Okay, it's all open, available information found on PDPC's website. You can go to pdpc.gov.sg, click on enforcement cases, and click on accountability. So there are 9 obligations under the PDPA, and accountability obligation, okay, is the obligation dealing with appointment of a DPO, making a DPO's BCI publicly available. So let's take a look at any case. I can click on it. I can see, oh, Society of Tourist Guides, $20,000 penalty, okay, did not appoint a DPO. So again, why is a DPO so important? It's because if an organization did not even appoint, okay, the lead personnel, the head personnel, the DPO, to take charge and get the company, okay, to perform its needful to ensure compliance with the PDPA, okay, you can be sure that everything else is not done, right? You can't not have someone to lead everything and then everything else just magically is done. So you can even click to learn more. So PDPC wants businesses in a similar industry to learn from these case studies and ensure that they do not, okay, try not to make the same mistakes. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so I always like to refer to this slide, is that the PDPC's Deputy Commissioner himself said, okay, that an organization with a highly placed professional DPO, okay, may well avoid a finding that it has, that means the organization has violated the PDPA, okay, even though there was a data breach. Okay, why does he say this? It's because he has a highly placed professional DPO. If he does his job well, he knows what he's doing, implemented everything. Okay, unfortunately, there may still be a mistake made or human error, okay, minor data breach or unauthorized disclosure, for example, was made or a complaint made. When PDPC is able to see that this organization has done all it can and more, okay, they may most probably issue a warning and issue directions to the company and make sure that there's a pipeline in place on how this issue can be mitigated and addressed moving forward. Okay, so outsourcing. What's the difference between developing your in-house DPO capabilities and outsourcing this out to a service provider? Okay, some of the pain points is that for an organization to appoint internally a DPO, okay, definitely that personnel will not have the necessary training or even know what to do. So you have to send him or her for training. You have to go through various trainings in place, right? And this is not even talking if this employee is going to stay in the company long enough to be able to ensure everything is done and make sure that the rest of the employees work together to get them compliant. It is not even talking also about the financial investment that you have to place into this employee. So what about experience? Okay, no business owner would easily just entrust anyone new to ensure that the whole organization is compliant because of the financial penalties in place, okay, under the PDPA. Maximum penalty as of now, okay, which they're also looking to raise. Okay, as of now, the maximum penalty is $1 million. Okay, so that's not something that businesses will want to trifle with. And capability constraints. So every business, okay, especially now, whereby the COVID period seriously impacted almost all businesses. So then businesses will be focusing on bringing in the income, generating more revenue, right? They do not have the necessary manpower or resources to attempt to comply to the PDPA, even though it's mandatory. Okay, so just to quickly share also on what Privacy Ninja can do for businesses. Okay, you can also refer to this if you are the DPO or if you have a DPO, they can also perform something similar to get the to have efforts, okay, to get the company compliant under the PDPA. So for example, okay, what we do is we perform twice a year. So it's a biannual company review / risk assessment on the business processes and audit. We spring a surprise audit to simulate a real world scenario, okay, on site. And also we have a checklist to make sure that the company is compliant and we're able to ensure that there's no lapse that we couldn't identify on the on-site audit. Okay, we have to draft out and implement for every business their data protection management program, DPMP, which consists of roughly anywhere from 15 to 20 documents. This can be your internal, external data protection policies, your retention policies, data breach management plan, so on and so forth. Okay, we also ensure that clients have in place, if they have a corporate website, a PDPA compliant privacy policy, making sure that all the details that need to be there are there. Because the first thing that they want to look at the privacy policy and how a company manage the personal data, okay, is to look at the privacy policy. Next, okay, we will get the group email for a business, and this group email, okay, will be where the public, customers, or even PDBC will contact the organization which we are a part of, and then a weekly emailer. So to fulfill the awareness portion, okay, we will send a weekly email to keep businesses up to date on any latest PDPA breaches, regulations, or even any cybersecurity hacking incident. Okay, we'll get our customers, the businesses, to go through PDPC's corporate e-learning. Okay, there's assessment module as well to ensure that we are sure that the employees understand the obligations of the PDPA. We'll provide a named individual for their ACRA BIZFILE. And last but not least, provide ongoing data protection support for any specific business question with regards to the PDPA, data protection, or even cybersecurity. Okay, so typical timeline, okay, we're looking at about 4 to 6 weeks to complete, okay, the engagement to get a company more or less compliant. And of course, throughout the whole year engagement, okay, it's ongoing support. There will be miscellaneous questions, activities that we have to watch out for, constant monitoring and audits. Okay, so cost savings for businesses. Okay, so most business owners at this point may still be thinking, what is the cost of if I still want to develop one in-house DPO for my company? Okay, very quick breakdown. Okay, if you look at this number here, $70,000, you may be thinking, how can this be possible? Why would I need to spend so much money, right, to be able to get my company PDPA compliant? So just looking at the training portion, to send one employee for training, they have to go through various training. Okay, to train someone from zero to hero, right, to be a proficient DPO, you're looking to spend this amount of money. Policies, okay, no DPO would know how to draft all the necessary data protection policies, okay, even going through courses. They will still need external help from consultants, law firms, or even service providers like ourselves. So then you'll be charged a BOM to understand your business activities, clarify everything, and draft out the needed documents. Okay, looking at just a very nominal fee of $3,500 per month for a compliance officer, you're looking at overall add together 70K, which is really a high amount that most businesses, I'm sure, will not be able to afford this amount this period of time. Okay, which brings us to our pricing, and how we charge is based on the employee size of a company. So if you're a small SME, 1 to 5 employees per year, okay, we only charge for our professional fees $1,500. If you're slightly bigger, it's slightly more expensive. But just to stress the point, looking at the pricing here, what you're paying for a whole year's worth of engagement protection with tangible deliverables, like the audits, the reports, the documentation, and the awareness, right? What you're looking to pay for a whole year's coverage is even less than 1 month's median Singaporean salary, okay, which is a really good deal in my opinion. And there's also market pricing. So feel free to go around, ask around what are the similar data protection as a service, right, that other service providers are offering. And you can see for yourself when you get the quote that what others are charging is much more expensive. And in terms of the comprehensiveness of their scope of work, okay, you can see what we provide is much more than the rest. So just a last slide from me is that quick recap. Okay, to have a DPO in place, you have to incur salaries. Okay, that's not even talking about annual bonus or CPF contribution. Productivity, okay, you have to spend time, you have to spend money to figure out how to do, what to do, okay, for your company. Okay, revenue. In terms of spending revenue and resources, okay, when you could be doing business development, but now you have to spend that same resources to comply with the PDPA. So you just got to ask yourself, can businesses now afford it when you know that the PDPA is mandatory? Okay, you have increased operating expense, possible productivity and income loss. Is this something you still want to take it upon yourself to have an in-house DPO and figure out along the way what to do? Or for the professionals to come in, help you get compliant very quickly at a very nominal cost. Okay, and just to highlight this, we have a special promotion. If for those who are watching this webinar right now, okay, if you quote BSC, okay, Blackshot Consulting 10, right, you'll be entitled to a 10% discount on our DPO as a service if you're interested. Feel free to contact us anytime, okay? This promotion will be valid till 31st October. As long as you quote BSC 10, okay, you'll be eligible for this. Okay, so I've come to the end of my sharing session. It's just nice 5:30. Okay, Jaslyn, I'll return the screen sharing to you.
Right, thank you, Andy, for the very insightful sharing. You may ask any question later during the open discussion. So now let's go into the discussion with Dexter as well as Andy on the common breaches that they actually experience, things like that. Okay, so I'll be asking some frequently asked questions by client and partners, so we can get Andy and Dexter to share their view. All right. So the first question I have is actually, what are the common or even latest cases that you actually handled? Because I believe there are a lot of like cyber attack, like almost probably every day. Probably some of them are on the news, some are not. So what are the common and latest cases that you have handled? Yeah.
Okay. I'll just like Dexter, would you like to start, or may I?
Okay. So you mean the common latest cases that we have handled, or is it the latest cyber breaches in Singapore?
Yeah, anything that you think the audience should know.
I think, okay, let's start with those, the latest news that happened in Singapore, but we didn't handle these cases. So the latest few would be, I'm sure everybody has been seeing Razer and also Red Doors and Shopback. These three big names has been having a data breach recently. So a lot of them has been saying that telling everybody on the news that, oh, don't worry, the credit card data has not been leaked. But the thing that has been leaked out are all the personal particulars and personal data of all the users. That's what happened recently. And also,
Yeah, those are some of the
Yeah.
major news. Sorry, Dexter, go ahead.
No worries. And also Grab has also recently been fined because their mobile app has also been exposing the personal data of drivers and also passengers of Grab Hitch. That was what has been happening recently. Yeah, so Andy, you can add on.
Yeah, and I'd just like to touch on incidents or cases by our clients that we personally handle. For example, every month, right, I would say typically we would get requests from potential clients for 2 to 3 ransomware cases. So you'll be surprised that actually ransomware, even in Singapore, okay, it's something that businesses face. So for example, even in this month, right, the month of September, we had to, purchase a Bitcoin, to get the decryption key for one client who got ransomware, right? So their server was encrypted, their corporate files could not be accessed, and we had to come in, we had to try to, de-encrypt the files. But it was a new ransomware, there's no decryption key available online, so that's what we had to do for our client. We even had clients, right, even in this month itself, that one of their software got hacked, and they were initially selling a virtual event, so it was a paid event. But the hacker came in, he changed certain things and blasted out free tickets to all, okay, all their contact lists for the company. So you could imagine the headache that he went through, right? We had to assist them to perform a police case. It was a very big thing, right? It was a very troublesome experience for the client. So these are some of the things that we experience, okay, every month, right? Every week we have these queries coming in, businesses get hacked, right? They have ransomware. So these are some of the things that we think is quite interesting, and it's always, both disheartening to learn that businesses have to go through this. Yet what we always try to stress is that with proper cyber hygiene, okay, necessary protection, all this could actually be avoided.
Yeah, but why does all this attack actually happen? What are the ways that they can prevent it other than having a DPO? Is there any way that they can do it?
Yeah, so a lot of these SME owners, they actually have a bad misconception where they say, oh, nobody is going to target them because they are very small SME. The hacker will just attack the big boys. They won't attack us because we are too small. But little do they know that the hackers are actually not targeting people based on whether you're big or small. There's a search engine for hackers where they can actually check and find out all the vulnerabilities that you're actually using. Maybe example, your computers are all Windows 7. There's a search engine for hackers to find out all the Windows 7 devices in Singapore. And now Windows 7 is end of life already. This is why all the ransomwares are coming in, because there's no more security patches by Microsoft for Windows 7. So a lot of our clients that are coming in, they're still using Windows 7, and now their files are encrypted. Now they cannot get back their 10 years of accounting data, and their customer data are all, even the invoices, all the supplier details are also all locked up now, and contracts especially. Yeah, this is what.
And just to add on also, that there's also even tools out there that hackers use. They will be able to search all the WordPress sites in the world, right? And if you do not update your WordPress site regularly, right, or if outdated plugins, you don't monitor it regularly, or you do not even install security plugins, that's when hackers using automated tools is no hassle to them. They will be able to identify your site and also use automated tools to hack your site, vandalize it, or bring it down, or access your database. So actually, hackers now are very sophisticated. It's not a hassle to them. And again, like what Dexter mentioned, they don't have to necessarily go after the big boys. Okay, the big boys, yes, may be able to pay more, but they also pay more for their security, right? So as a SME, they may be thinking, oh, you don't spend a lot on security. You put it on the back burner. You don't really prioritize your security. So it's easier to hack you, for example. That's when they can go after you for a small amount of ransom as well. Even $10,000, $20,000 for you to retrieve back your corporate data. Would you be willing to pay? I'm very sure a lot of business owners would have no choice but to pay that amount, and the hacker is happy.
Yeah, and a lot of these companies, their employees or even the administrator of the company is using default password or even using same passwords across multiple devices, or even using simple passwords such as 123456. So we have a lot of cases where the MailChimp has been hacked, And just now, Andy has said that our client had all the events tickets were sent out, right, to all their contact lists, was because their password was too simple. They were using something like 12345 and that's how the hacker went in. It wasn't even a hack per se. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks
And
for
also
sharing.
in terms of, sorry, just to add on also,
No
in terms
problem.
of forensics, right, post-incident, okay, when you want to identify how did the attack vector come in, why did this incident happen? So we also find out that a lot of companies, just to save a few dollars per month, right, for a subscription-based service, right, a SaaS model. So let's say for example, MailChimp, right, if you only buy one monthly account, you not buy, let's say 4 or 5, but 4 or 5 of your employees are using the same account. When we attempt to do forensics post-incident, that's when we find it very hard to do so because we cannot identify now whose account was the one that got compromised, right? Through audit trails, because all are using the same account, there'll be finger pointing, and this is also what PDBC don't want to see, right?
Yeah. So
Yep.
it seems like it doesn't, just apply to Singapore registered company, because global company, they also will face the same issue. Hacking will happen anywhere, but even individual, like you mentioned about the password, if you set a very simple password, things like that. Okay. So because we deal with quite a number of like foreign companies, so they have been asking, will they be liable for any data breaches involving in Singapore, although they are not a Singapore registered company? Because we understand that, let's say if it's European, in Europe there's another, privacy
GDPR.
GDPR. So for GDPR, if you are not a European registered company, you will be liable. So can you explain a little bit more about the Singapore case?
Sure, I'll take this. So, example, if you are a company that you possess personal data of EU residents or citizens, even if you are based here or based in other countries, even not in the EU region, you have to stay compliant to the GDPR. So the ICO, right, they will still come after you if there's a breach of such data. Or you may be based overseas, you're a total foreign company, you're not even based in Singapore, you process the personal data or any data of even Singaporeans. Based on your jurisdiction, your data protection regulator will come after you respectively. So different countries, almost all of the privacy laws, more or less a huge portion is the same on your protection obligations, your retentions, and how you disclose to third parties, right? But as of now, the GDPR is the most stringent data protection regulation or law in the world. They have the highest penalties, and businesses really do not try to play around with the GDPR. So businesses overseas that fall under GDPR compliance really have to spend a huge amount to be compliant. Did I answer your question?
Yes. But how can
Okay.
Privacy Ninja actually help foreign-based company, like our clients, things like that?
Okay, for foreign companies based overseas, but they do handle personal data, based on their jurisdiction, okay, we will be able to help them make sure that their privacy policies are in place, good practices are being performed, right? Recommended changes to their business processes, activities, right? With in keeping in mind that they should collect as little personal data as possible, purge it or delete it whenever there's no longer a necessary need, and then of course to be fully compliant to their jurisdiction's data protection law.
Yeah. So a lot of these overseas companies do actually also appoint us as their DPO and also
Yep.
engage us to do consultancy work. We can help them be GDPR compliant. We can help them even do penetration tests remotely to test their website and mobile apps that are collecting data. Yeah, these is some of the things that we do.
Yeah. So for a VAPT, also known as a vulnerability assessment penetration testing, we can do it remotely, and we do it remotely because we are simulating a real world attack. So for a black hat hacker, right, the notorious hackers, the malicious ones, they do not need your permission to hack your systems, to hack your network, hack your applications, because it's already internet facing. So they don't need your permission, they just come after you, right? So we are the white hat hackers, the good guys that come in, get your permission, and try to hack you, and we generate a report to let you know where your vulnerabilities are, what bugs exist, if you are able to access your systems. So businesses will quickly patch up the needful, okay, and be better protected before the bad guys can come in.
All right, thank you. I do not have any more questions, but we actually have questions from the audience. Okay, so Guna Guna actually asked this question, like, if we use like Privacy Ninja as our DPO, when we still get hacked, will the company still be liable for any, punishment,
Yeah,
things
I
like that?
understand this question. I'll take that as well. So to answer to Guna, thank you, Guna. So if any business were to appoint us, Privacy Ninja, as your outsourced DPO, we will come in, we'll make sure you are fully compliant to the PDPA. Okay, we'll basically, if you are totally not compliant, you get the overhaul, best practices, okay, documentation all done, awareness all done to your employees, and constantly monitoring with both the twice a year surprise audit to always keep your employees at the tip of their toes. But I have to stress that no company, no organization, even individuals, no one is 100% safe from hacking, right? If a hacker tries hard enough over time, has enough data, one day he will, if he really wants to go after you, he will be able to. So businesses should always have in mind that they're not totally safe. They should do all they can to stay protected. And with regards to the question, if they appoint us as a DPO, they're still hacked, will the company still be liable? Definitely, yes. So as of now, PDPC, okay, will still go after the company because it is the organization's responsibility, okay, to be compliant to the PDPA. And how can you do that? Is by first appointing, okay, I would say a professional or provision DPO to ensure that things are done to get them compliant. And this DPO will also make sure that whatever good practices that should be performed that are currently not being performed, okay, in terms of maybe even cyber security, all this bring forth to management's attention and get this covered. So again, I stress back, no one is totally hack free. If a hacker wants to go after you, one day eventually he may be able to. Just to also touch on that, recently PDPC also has sent out public consultancy papers, and one of the proposed items is also to hold employees responsible, okay, for the PDPA if there's a breach performed by an employee. So as of now, again, PDPA or PDPC will go after the organization, but eventually, okay, in what we think will really happen probably in the next year or two, is that employees who get a company suffer data breach because they did not follow the implemented policies, they are also liable. They may face up to $5,000 fine or even 6 months jail time.
But to add on to Guna's question, so what we do is if you show our penetration test reports and all the SOPs that we have implemented, so what PDPC will come in to see would be the before and after, things that you have done and you have fixed before even the hack has happened. So with all this in place, it will help you fight your case strongly. This is what we actually specialize in helping you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another question from Michael. I think Michael would want to elaborate a little bit. Okay, how will a DPO help? Because you did talk about the recent cases of cyber attack, and what Michael was asking is how will a DPO help with the cyber attack on top of what you have shared earlier?
Okay, I'll touch on this first, and I believe Dexter also can add on. So for bigger companies, you may have your CTO, your CISO, right? Your Chief Technology Officer, or if you're big enough, you have a Chief Information Security Officer, right? But these people, these personnel will work closely with a DPO to ensure that the security is in place, protection is in place. For smaller firms, of course, they don't have all these many C-suite individuals. So then a DPO, because to get the company compliant to the PDPA, and again, I mentioned in this digital era, a lot of data, okay, be it personal or not, or even corporate data, is being stored on the cloud. So to a large extent, data privacy is closely linked to cybersecurity, and a provision DPO will ensure the necessary protection, retention periods, even good practices, and implementing processes in place to be followed by the employees would address all these issues. So in the most of the time, it's due to a human error that a data breach happens, right? No cyber hygiene and such similar incidents. So a good DPO will ensure these are being followed through, do the regular audits, catch the employees, right? Make sure that this do not happen again. Dexter, you want to add on?
Yeah. So a DPO would also actually help make sure that penetration tests are being done regularly. So this is actually a very important thing that has been missed out in a lot of even big organizations in Singapore, because a lot of them don't even do once a year, or some even never even do one before in their life. Yeah. this is one of the major things that is happening nowadays in Singapore and also overseas.
And when we say the word cyber attack, most people may straight away link it to, oh, a hacker go and penetrate my systems, hack my website, gain access to my system. But there's actually a lot of ways, or rather, so many different attack vectors that will enable a perpetrator to enter your systems, enter your databases. It can be because a employee's workstation is compromised, right? Somehow his logins or his device not protected, and through that, that is the first entry whereby a hacker can come into the company system. So cyber attack is actually very broad, and it all boils down to starting from the employees, cyber hygiene, good practices in place, and then followed by the relevant protections and prevention methods.
Okay. Another question that we have is if there is a suspected case of another company breaching the PDPA by selling the data to third party, as an individual or company, how or is it possible to actually report such suspicions?
Okay, I'll take that on as well. So just to share that the PDPA is actually a complaints-based regime. So what kind of typical scenarios are there? First, okay, I'll touch on four. First is that customers complain. They complain to PDPC. Very simple. Simply go to PDPC's website, scroll down, DP complain. Click the web form, fill up your details, and PDPC is obligated to investigate every single complaint. So can you imagine you don't even have a DPO? First question that PDPC will ask you is, who do you appoint as a DPO? Do you have all your data protection management program or plan in place, documentation, practices? Why this complaint come in? Can you justify? Okay, is it valid or invalid? So you got to explain. So if you don't even have the DPO to protect you and address the question by PDPC, I'm very sure penalty is going to be higher, you're going to kena. So that's only for customers' complaint. Second will be whistleblowing. So internal stakeholders. For example, an employee can complain to PDPC, hey, why my HR go and share more personal details about me to another of my staff when there's no need to, right? We can have a third kind of scenario that is a competitor, they arrow or they sabo another company. Hey, I know that IT company ABC don't have DPO, right? They go and fill up the form complaint. Then PDPC will come and investigate. Ask the ABC company, do you have a DPO? When do you appoint him? Do you have DPMP, etc.? And last but not least, if you suffer a data breach, and this gets onto the news, right? Even before you yourself go and inform PDPC, right? Within the first 72 hours, get the necessary SOPs done, inform the data victims, if relevant, to speak to Singapore Police Force or even CSA. Then they will know that you don't have the policies in place. That's why you know SOP and you don't know how to properly manage a data breach. So going back to the question, is it possible to report such suspicion of a company violating the PDPA by selling personal data to third parties? Yes, you can do so. Go to PDPC's website. There's a web form that you can find. It can be a company, it can be an individual, a customer. Fill in the details. PDPC will do the rest.
Right. What are the common mistakes made by the companies in regards to the best and worst practices? So this question is from Guna.
Okay, I'll touch on a few first. Dexter, do feel free to jump in anytime.
Yeah.
So some of the common, I would say, mistakes or bad or worst practices would include, like we just now mentioned, using weak passwords. Because of it's always a balance that you have to strike between security and ease of access. So the easier that you want to gain access to data for you to perform your work every day, the less security there will be, right? So less security, more ease of access. Lesser or harder ease of access, you got more security. So simple example like password, you want to put, I don't want to remember 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? There are automated tools that hackers can use to brute force attacks. And also on the deep web or darknet, every time when there's a data breach, hackers will try to monetize this by publishing it online and getting buyers to buy over such data. Whoever the buyers is, they will definitely have nefarious intentions, either to buy it, to do spam call or scam calls, right? Or even just to try to hack into your accounts, try to see if they change your password, gain access, try to monetize off there, ask you for ransom. So example, weak passwords. We also have sharing of accounts. So again, if 4 or 5 different employees share one account, let's say to your CRM, because of one of the employees, right, his credentials got compromised, they're not able to find out who was the one that caused this to happen. So then it's very hard also for the company to mitigate and plan proper measures moving forward. So we always say whoever has access to personal data, be it online, cyber, or in a physical environment, make sure you have in place restriction policies. Who needs to have most access to personal data? Maybe only the manager or high-level personnel, followed by the rest of the executive. Log in place who has access and when did they access the data. So our audit trail is also very, very important. One more thing I'll share also is, again, we keep going back to penetration testing. So companies, they'll keep having the mindset, we're just a small firm, not even earning, let's say, multi-million per year, right? We're just comfortable. Which hacker want to come after us? We don't even do marketing. Would they bother to can they even find us in the first place? So then when they really do chance upon you through automated tools, they come after you, that's when you go through the trouble, then you will find out how painful the mistake was.
Dex? There's also many mistakes, such as it can be as simple as keeping your software up to date. There's a lot of companies do not even keep their software up to date. They are still using Windows 7 or still using a very, very old 5-6-year-old software without even any updates. So we have accounting firms, traditional accounting firms, printing companies, they don't even know that Windows 7 is no longer having any more support. So it's very easy to get ransomware, very easy to get any kind of data breach from there, especially if you are sharing a network drive on Windows 7. Yeah.
And one more thing I'll add on is also phishing attacks or spear phishing, right? Email spoofing. So normally when we do live demonstrations, we will randomly get audience to provide us their name cards on the spot. Okay, we will show them we're able to send an email from this person's exact email address to another person in the audience. Right, we're able to use his phone to call another person or even SMS. So all these spoofing activities are very easily done by hackers who possess the know-how. So with regards to phishing, you may see, why my finance send me a important urgent email asking me to make payment to an overseas vendor. So when quickly go and comply, send out the money, right? But you didn't check properly. You do not have in place the SOP to know who to check to. Is this really from your CFO, for example? Human error is always one of the biggest mistakes in the workplace.
Okay.
I think there's a few more questions coming up. Maybe we can move on.
Yeah, so we have like 2 questions. So this will be the last 2 questions. So the rest you can email us. Okay, so what would be the most severe penalty if companies don't hire DPO? Will there be any warning first? I think this question is regarding how the fine will work.
Okay, great question. Of course, we are in no position to answer on behalf of PDPC, but we definitely can say it's a case-by-case basis. And as previously mentioned, that the PDPA is a complaints-based regime, right? So based on who made the complaint, the seriousness of the complaint, and the possible implications if the complaint is totally valid, PDPC will come in, investigate, ask you, who do you appoint as a DPO? Do you have a DPO? Documentation, all this, is it all done? Are employees all aware of the obligations, policies? Such a long thing. You will not be able to smoke PDPC and tell them, oh yes, we have everything. They will want you to show the evidence or the proof. So again, going back, based on the seriousness or the possible implications of the complaint, they may or may not issue you a warning, which is also possible. They may give you a warning, or they may already, I would say, invoice you for financial penalty. Yeah.
All right, thank you. So Privacy Ninja DPO, will you all do security audits for the website? And we also have another question from Gunnar, which is, my staff is actually not IT savvy, so how can we get them to secure themselves? Yeah, so I think these 2 questions are quite relevant. You can answer that at a go.
Sure. So the first question is, will Privacy Ninja DPO do security audits for website? Yes, Privacy Ninja does security audits for website. That's what we are very good at as well. But the DPO's job in any organization is to sound off to management what is the action plan needed to do based on possible lapses or risky activities. So if you are appointed as the DPO, we'll definitely do an audit on the on-site environment, both for the cyber as well. Okay, and then we will suggest to management it's time to do a VAPT or security audit on your website, your applications, or even your network. The management of the company will then understand what is the recommended action plan, and they'll make the decision based on the business risk, right? If they want to spend that budget to resolve these issues. We cannot mandate and force, you must do this, you must do this. But as a DPO, we will provide our professional 2 cents to sound off to management to make sure they understand and they're aware. Right. I hope I covered the answer for the first question. For the second question, so Gunnar, he has mentioned, my staff are not IT savvy at all. How do we get them to secure themselves? Yeah. Okay. So we do provide cyber hygiene courses as well. We do provide PDPA awareness courses that contain cyber hygiene practices and all this. So then training is always a very integral part of how someone is able to both protect themselves and the company, right? If they themselves, their character is a very, I would say, they don't really care about cyber security. What they do is very loose, then definitely when they're working for a company, the important credentials that they're accessing company, corporate data, or sensitive data may get easily leaked because of the very nature of how someone conducts his or herself. So training is always very important. Send a staff for a training, they understand, go through a competency test, and last but not least, perform regular audits to catch them, reprimand them, include certain disciplinary clauses in their contracts, right? Because a company should protect its business. And if someone, your employment, is not following the implemented SOPs or procedures, that's something you have to think whether you still want to keep this employee or not.
And that's the job of the DPO also, to recommend whoever is touching data in the company, make sure they are sent for proper training.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for the response to the question that our audience have. Okay, before we end this session, I would like to share something. Okay, so Blackstone Consulting is actually having a giveaway of like materials if you indicate your interest to be the first few to actually use the Blackstone Learn platform. So what exactly is Blackstone Learn platform? So as a consultancy firm, we are actually launching a professional learning platform whereby we have experts sharing with you the first-hand stories and compressed knowledge that you would otherwise would have to spend many years to accumulate it. So we actually have like pre-recorded courses in the form of like audio, podcasts, video activities, and eventually you can actually book a session with the instructor if you would love to find out more and also get customized advice. So in the future, there will be like actually more feature like having a community in which you can actually mingle with the rest of the people and engage in a live webinar on the single platform. Okay, so because it's no longer just about learning theories, we actually strive to actually provide you a platform whereby you can solve your business problem with a click away. Okay, so if you are interested, leave your details to get notified for any updates regarding this platform, and we will send you the resources such as the Business Sentiment 2020 reports for Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand, and also an e-guide on the proven way to actually help business to weather the storm, which is the pandemic right now. Okay, so we actually come to the end of this webinar, and we hope that you actually benefit from this session. And do drop us an email if you have any queries or even any question to the speakers and guests here today. Okay, so thank you once again for being with us today, and thank you to the speakers for the very insightful sharing things like that. So we hope to actually see you again soon. Okay, I'll leave the slide here so you can note down the email address. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Jesslyn. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for attending.
Thanks, Andy and Dexter.
Have a good day. Stay safe, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.